King Kong Bundy passed away in 2019, and ever since then, the rumors around him have finally started to make sense. From his behind-the-scenes issues with Vince McMahon to the shocking reason he never made it into the WWE Hall of Fame, the story just keeps getting wilder. So let's break it all down and see what really happened. He played his role as a trash-talking, no-nonsense heel to perfection, and for many fans, he was one of the first true monsters they ever saw in the squared circle. Bundy wasn't just another wrestler in the lineup. He was one of the main players during the wrestling boom of the 1980s, the same era that turned Hulk Hogan, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and others into household names. In fact, Bundy earned one of the greatest honors a wrestler could hope for. He headlined WrestleMania 2, going one-on-one with Hulk Hogan in a steel cage match for the WWF Championship. That match alone cemented him in wrestling history as someone who could carry the spotlight and make fans genuinely believe he was a threat to Hogan's title reign. But here's where the story takes a turn. Despite all of his contributions, and despite being a major part of WWF's national rise, Bundy never made it into the WWE Hall of Fame. Fans scratched their heads over this for years, especially since so many of his peers, many with less memorable careers, were honored. When Bundy passed away in 2019 without that recognition, the omission felt even more glaring. So why didn't Bundy get in? Many point to his rocky relationship with WWF owner Vince McMahon. And if you listen to Bundy himself, he was very open about what he thought went wrong. The trouble started in the late 1980s, shortly after Bundy's big WrestleMania spotlight. At the time, Bundy agreed to appear in some commercials for a Dutch computer company called Vendex. To Bundy, this was just another gig. Wrestlers in that era didn't have the kind of long-term contracts or financial security that today's stars enjoy. So many looked for outside opportunities to make extra money. But what Bundy probably didn't expect was the sheer scale of the campaign. The Vendex ads ran nationally, and Bundy quickly became the recognizable face of the company. Now here's where Vince McMahon enters the picture. According to Bundy, McMahon was furious when he saw one of his wrestlers, one of his properties as Vince reportedly called them, front and center in a major advertising campaign that he didn't control and didn't profit from. Vince had always been very protective of his brand and of the talent who represented it. Bundy himself often said that this Vendex situation was the kiss of death for his career in WWF. He believed that after this incident, Vince soured on him and no longer saw him as someone who could be pushed as a top star. Looking at how Bundy's career unfolded after WrestleMania 2, it's not hard to see why he thought that way. While he still wrestled and made appearances, Bundy was never again given the kind of main event spotlight or momentum he once had. It was as if his career hit a ceiling, and that ceiling was placed there directly because of the fallout with Vince. And this wasn't the only shadow hanging over Bundy's post-WWF legacy. In later years, he was also tied to the concussion lawsuit filed against WWE, where several former wrestlers accused the company of failing to protect them from long-term brain injuries. While Bundy wasn't the main name in that suit, being associated with it likely didn't help his chances of being embraced by WWE again. For Bundy, it was frustrating because he knew he had played a key role during wrestling's golden era. He wasn't just a background figure. He was front and center, sharing the spotlight with Hulk Hogan and helping the WWF brand explode into mainstream culture. But before he became the bald-headed giant in the black singlet, before he was main eventing WrestleMania, Bundy was just Christopher Allen Pallies, a kid from New Jersey. Wrestling was something that ran in his family. For Bundy, wrestling was more than just a high school sport. It was the start of something much bigger. After high school, Pallies decided to pursue professional wrestling. He trained at the famous Monster Factory in Belmar, New Jersey, under the guidance of Larry Sharp. The Monster Factory was known for producing some of wrestling's future stars, and Bundy fit right in. He made his debut on March 7, 1981, in the World Wrestling Federation under the ring name Bundy Canyon. Not long after, he experimented with another ring name, Bundy Cannon. In those early days, he was still figuring out his identity in the business. His first big moment came on July 10, 1981, when he scored his first WWF victory against Strong Kobayashi. By 1982, Bundy decided to take a big leap and head down to Texas, where he joined World Class Championship Wrestling. In Texas, he was first introduced as a good guy called Big Daddy Bundy, a name inspired by British wrestler Shirley Crabtree's Big Daddy. He came out in blue jeans with a rope for a belt, far from the menacing image he would later become famous for. But it didn't take long before things shifted. After a falling out with the beloved Von Erich family, Bundy turned heel, aligning himself with the notorious playboy Gary Hart. And it was here that the world finally met King Kong Bundy. The transformation was dramatic. Gone were the blue jeans, replaced by a simple but intimidating black singlet. To make him even scarier, Bundy lost his hair during this time, and the bald, massive figure became his trademark look. The name King Kong was borrowed from the iconic movie monster, and it fit perfectly. Bundy quickly became one of the top villains in WCCW, even wrestling in Fritz von Erich's 1982 retirement match at Texas Stadium, which was a huge event. From there, Bundy traveled through the wrestling territories, including stints in the American Wrestling Association and Georgia Championship Wrestling. He even teamed up with the Masked Superstar to win the NWA National Tag Team Championship from the legendary Road Warriors. One of his unique trademarks also emerged during this time: his demand for a 5 count instead of the usual 3 count when pinning opponents. Bundy would crush his rivals in squash matches and insist that referees count to 5, just to show how decisively he had won. It was a simple idea, but it became one of his calling cards. By 1985, Bundy's reputation as a monster heel was well established, and the timing was perfect because WWF was expanding nationally under Vince McMahon. Bundy made his official WWF debut on March 16, 1985, defeating Mario Mancini on Championship Wrestling. At first managed by Jimmy Hart, Bundy tore through opponents, flattening them in quick matches while demanding his famous 5 count. He was so dominant that he was chosen to compete at the very first WrestleMania. That night, he squashed S.D. Jones in what was announced as a 9-second match in reality, closer to 17 seconds. Either way, it became a record-setting moment in WrestleMania history. Later in 1985, Bundy joined Bobby the Brain Heenan's infamous Heenan family, and that's when his career skyrocketed. Bundy was placed in a heated feud with Andre the Giant, even kayfabe breaking Andre's sternum after several avalanches and splashes. He also set his sights on Hulk Hogan and the WWF Championship. The rivalry with Hogan reached its peak at WrestleMania 2, where Bundy challenged Hogan in a steel cage match for the title. Though Hogan won, Bundy's place in history was secure. He had main evented one of the most important shows in wrestling history. After WrestleMania 2, Bundy continued feuding with top stars. He teamed with Big John Studd against the Machines, faced Andre again, and even wrestled in a bizarre 6-man tag at WrestleMania 3, alongside midget wrestlers Little Tokyo and Lord Little Brook. In that match, Bundy infamously body-slammed and elbow-dropped Little Beaver, causing his own team's disqualification. These moments kept Bundy relevant, but as time went on, his spotlight began to fade. By 1988, he had quietly left WWF. Bundy then entered a period of semi-retirement, wrestling occasionally for promotions like Eastern Championship Wrestling, the early ECW, the USWA, and WCW, though his WCW stint never made TV. He even wrestled Terry Funk's mystery partner at ECW's First November to Remember event in 1993. In 1994, Bundy surprised fans by returning to WWF, this time as part of Ted DiBiase's $1 Million Corporation. He scored a Survivor Series win and got another WrestleMania appearance, this time against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 11. Once again, he played the monster villain role, but this time, he was used more to build up others than as a serious main eventer. By the end of 1995, Bundy was gone from WWF for good. In the years that followed, Bundy worked the independent circuit, headlined smaller shows, and even won the AWA Superstars of Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. He was still a big name wherever he went, often wrestling fellow legends like Jimmy Snuka or Hacksaw Jim Duggan. His final matches came in 2007, including one against Duggan in Kentucky. In later years, Bundy's relationship with WWE remained strained. He joined a class action lawsuit against the company in 2016, claiming wrestlers suffered long-term brain injuries that WWE ignored. The case was dismissed in 2018, but many believe his involvement further ensured that Bundy would never get into the WWE Hall of Fame. Combined with the earlier Vendex fallout, Bundy's legacy with Vince McMahon was complicated. Despite headlining WrestleMania 2 and being one of the defining heels of the 80s, Bundy never got the recognition many felt he deserved. Sadly, on March 4th, 2019, King Kong Bundy passed away at his home in Glassboro, New Jersey, from complications of diabetes. He was only 61 years old. Bundy's career is a mix of triumph and frustration. He was a giant in every sense of the word, standing shoulder to shoulder with wrestling's biggest legends. And that's a wrap for today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an update. See you next time. Bye.